What we are witnessing tonight is more than just another development in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. It could very well be a turning point that reshapes the entire balance of power in Eastern Europe, and potentially, the world. Over the past 72 hours, the situation on the ground has shifted dramatically. Ukrainian forces have withdrawn from multiple contested territories, areas that, until recently, served as critical buffer zones shielding the heartland from Russian advances. These withdrawals were not announced with grand speeches or triumphant music. They came quietly, but their consequences may be anything but quiet. For weeks, signs of strain had been mounting. Field commanders were reporting shortages of ammunition. Supply lines, already stretched thin, were repeatedly targeted by Russian artillery and drone strikes. The cost of holding certain positions had risen beyond what Ukrainian logistics could sustain. In the end, Kyiv faced a brutal choice: hold at all costs and risk losing entire units, or pull back to more defensible lines and preserve manpower for the battles to come. Military analysts are describing this situation with a term that dates back to Cold War strategy, the envelope. It is the nightmare of being surrounded, or nearly surrounded, with only narrow escape routes left. In such a scenario, forces trapped inside risk being cut off from reinforcements, starved of supplies, and eventually destroyed. And this is not a theoretical concern. Ukrainian troops in several sectors now face precisely that danger. The territories lost were not just patches of land. They were defensive depth, layers of fortifications, trenches, and strongpoints that absorbed the initial shock of Russian offensives. Without them, the next lines of defense are under intense and immediate pressure. And the Russian military, already positioned advantageously, is wasting no time tightening the noose. We are seeing concentrated firepower. We are seeing movements designed to block retreat routes. And we are seeing morale under strain. Ukrainian troops, many of whom have been in continuous combat rotations for months, now face the grim possibility of fighting their way out of encirclements or abandoning yet more ground. Kyiv insists these withdrawals are tactical, that they are preserving strength for battles where the odds are more favorable. But in the theater of perception, the information war, such moves can be painted as defeats. And defeats, perceived or real, can erode public confidence, shake alliances, and embolden an opponent. Meanwhile, Russia is moving with deliberate, calculated precision. This is not the chaotic, poorly coordinated advance of the early war months. This is methodical. Intelligence from both satellites and frontline observers confirms a steady, disciplined reinforcement of positions. New troops are arriving, fresh units, rested and well-equipped. Heavy artillery batteries are being positioned to cover multiple potential frontlines. Missile systems capable of striking far behind Ukrainian lines are being deployed in numbers not seen in months. This buildup is layered, designed to defend what Russia already holds while also preparing for potential deeper advances. We are seeing electronic warfare units set up to jam communications and disrupt drone guidance. We are seeing long-range rocket artillery moved into positions from which they can saturate Ukrainian supply hubs. And perhaps most tellingly, we are seeing Russian logistics running more smoothly. Fuel convoys and ammunition resupply moving under tighter protection and with fewer delays. Air activity is also ramping up. While Russia has not achieved uncontested control of the skies, it has increased the use of reconnaissance drones, loitering munitions, and precision airstrikes. These tools, combined with its ground-based missile coverage, are allowing Moscow to keep Ukrainian forces under near-constant pressure, forcing them to spread thin and remain on the move rather than massing for counterattacks. The message from Moscow is unambiguous: we are ready for the long fight. We can escalate further, and we are not leaving. In Washington, these developments have set off alarm bells. High-level meetings have been convened in the White House Situation Room. The Pentagon is running simulations and reviewing deployment timelines. Intelligence briefings to senior officials are increasing in frequency. The Biden administration faces a difficult set of choices. Does it continue the current flow of aid? Artillery shells, armored vehicles, short-range air defenses, or does it escalate to providing advanced long-range missile systems and modern fighter jets? The latter could tilt the battlefield in Ukraine's favor, but it would also risk direct confrontation with Russia. In Congress, the debate is growing sharper. Hawks argue that hesitation will only embolden the Kremlin and that decisive support now could prevent a far costlier war later. Others urge caution, warning of the dangers of stumbling into a NATO-Russia conflict. Yet despite differences in tone, there remains broad bipartisan agreement on one point. Russia cannot be allowed to score a decisive breakthrough that undermines Ukraine's sovereignty and emboldens aggressors elsewhere. The Pentagon is quietly preparing for contingencies. Military planners are reviewing how to accelerate delivery of critical systems, while ensuring that other global commitments, in the Middle East, in the Indo-Pacific, remain covered. NATO coordination is intensifying. Allied forces are running exercises, reinforcing bases, and positioning rapid reaction units along the alliance's eastern flank. Beyond the battlefield, the economic and political ripples are spreading. Energy markets are reacting sharply. Oil and gas prices are climbing again, raising fears of inflation spikes. For Europe, the cost of supporting Ukraine is not measured only in weapons and aid packages, it's measured at the gas pump, in heating bills, and in industrial energy costs. For the United States, it's measured in budget debates, in midterm campaign speeches, and in the shifting winds of public opinion. Financial markets are jittery. Defense sector stocks are up. Broader market indexes are down. Investors are hedging against geopolitical uncertainty by moving into gold and U.S. Treasuries. It is a familiar pattern, and one that underlines just how closely global economic confidence is tied to the trajectory of this war. NATO's credibility is on the line. If Ukraine's lines collapse despite the flood of Western support, it will send a dangerous message, not just to Russia, but to other powers watching from afar. In Asia, Beijing is watching closely, measuring Western resolve as it calculates its own strategic ambitions. In the Middle East, alliances are being quietly tested. In Africa and Latin America, governments are weighing the costs and benefits of aligning with one side or the other. The broader fear, and it is not unfounded, is that what began as a regional conflict could escalate into a wider confrontation between great powers. History has taught us that wars do not always stay contained. The First World War began as a localized conflict. Within months, it had engulfed continents. The margin for error here is razor thin. And so, as we speak tonight, decisions are being made, in Kyiv, in Moscow, in Washington, in Brussels, that will shape not only the fate of Ukraine, but the future of global stability. Stay informed. Seek verified information. Understand that this is not a distant war with no bearing on your life. Energy prices, global markets, alliance stability, they all connect back to what is happening right now. History is being written in real time, and the situation is critical.